our face it.
Smile, wave. Make his day. Don't forget yourself, Lisa.
Here's my note cards. Make sure they're in the right order this time. Last time I had them all mixed up. All right. I want everybody to think forward a little bit. Your daughter is like 26, 30 years old, and she comes to you, Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you for a minute. I've got some news I need to share. Then she drops the bomb. Mom, Dad, I've been diagnosed with cervical cancer. You think in your head, how could this have happened? What could I have done to prevent this from happening to my daughter? Well, I'm here today to talk about something we can do to help with cervical rates in the United States. We've been blessed with a vaccination, Gardasil vaccine, to protect against cervical cancer rates through protecting us against the human papillomavirus, or HPV. This vaccine is not currently mandated in the United States, but has been around the world, and there's been a significant decrease in those nations in the rates of cervical cancer. Now I'm here to persuade you guys that the states need to mandate the HPV vaccine along with already previously mandated vaccines for school-aged kids. We're going to talk about the preposterously high rates of cervical cancer. We're going to discuss how states go about mandating vaccines. If even mandating the Gardasil vaccine would do anything for our nation, and if this is feasibly possible. Let's start off by talking about the rates of cervical cancer in the United States. The American Cancer Society estimated that in the year of 2018, 13,240 people would be diagnosed with cervical cancer. Of those people, 4,170 women would lose their lives to cervical cancer. With the introduction of pap smears, they saw a great decline in the rates of cervical cancer. However, over the past 15 years, there's been no change in those numbers. The National Cervical Cancer Coalition, in an overview on cervical cancer, states that out of the women who are diagnosed with cervical cancer, 99% of them are HPV positive. The HPV vaccine, as I've already said, is not currently mandated. Vaccines over the years have been mandated to decrease death rates due to deadly viruses. So how do they go about mandating these vaccines? Well, in an article on vaccination mandates, the public health imperative and individual rights, they discussed that in the 1980 to 1981 school year, all 50 states had given some sort of law to require vaccinations among school-aged children prior to entering grade school. It wasn't until 1998 to 1999 that they actually had made these laws that they had to be up to date from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And the HPV vaccine, to mandate it, would only need to be required to add to these already mandated vaccines. They regulate vaccines through having people submit a up-to-date vaccination record at the start of the school year, also through our state immunization websites. Well, if we mandate this vaccine, what would it do for our country? There's been several studies that have been shown to decrease the rates of HPV in nations. There is one that's discussed in an article. The article is named Epidemiologic Classification of Human Papillomaviruses Types Associated with Cervical Cancer. In this, they did 11 different studies over 9 different nations. They took nearly 2,000 women who had been diagnosed with cervical cancer and 2,000 women to use as a control who had not been diagnosed with cervical cancer. Of the 2,000 women who were diagnosed with cervical cancer, 90% of them tested positive for HPV. Of the other group, only 13% of them tested positive. They went on to further look at the strains of HPV that were present in those that came back positive, and they found that a vaccination that was developed to protect against the 5 top HPV strains would protect against 90% of cervical cancers. In another article on a study done in Australia, the near disappearance of genital warts in young women 4 years after commencing a national human papillomavirus vaccination program, they offered free vaccines to girls 12 to 18 years old, along with free catch-up vaccines for anyone under the age of 26. They followed them for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, they found that the rate of HPV in the girls under 21 years old went from 18.9 down to 1.6%. They also found that there was a huge decrease in the rate of high-grade cervical abnormalities in those girls. So is this possible? Can we mandate this? Can we see the same kind of things within the United States that these other nations have seen? Absolutely. What would it require from us? Probably a little extra money. There are programs that help with the financing of childhood vaccinations. One of those, the CDC labels as the leading financing program is the Vaccines for Children's program. If we give more money towards these, however, it's my belief that in the long term, there'll be less money needed towards healthcare with the decrease in cervical cancer rates. So in conclusion, let's not be the parent that wonders what we can do. Let's urge our state to take action and to mandate this vaccine and offer the money necessary to mandate it and protect our women against cervical cancer. Thank you.
Great job.
Good job.
There you go.